Goodness, Mr. Essen isn't here tonight. Good evening, everyone. I think we're here in a good place tonight. It's air conditioned. Do we have introductions to do before we get going tonight, Robin?
Madam Chair, I did want to do a couple introductions. At our last city council meeting, we had a couple of appointments to this commission. So I would like to introduce our new commissioners, Commissioner Radke and Commissioner Bohr.
Welcome. We're glad to have you with us. Okay, may we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Hensick. Chair Stevens.
Here.
Commissioner Slaughter.
Here.
Commissioner Hammond.
Present.
Secretary Rajan.
Present.
Vice Chair Bacher.
Present.
We have no alternates. Council Member Liaison Marshall.
Present.
Council Member Liaison Ramba. Our HPC Advisor, Mr. Scott. And Commissioner Radke and Commissioner Bohr.
Present.
Madam Chair, we do have quorum.
Thank you very much. Please stand as you're able, and we'll have a pledge of allegiance led by Alan this evening. We'll wait till Debbie gets up here. Come on, Debbie. Okay, Alan.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. There was an important holiday last week, that of Flag Day. Flag Day is a holiday celebrated on June the 14th in the United States. It commemorates the adoption of the flag of the United States on June 14th, 1777, by resolution of the Second Continental Congress. The flag resolution stated, quote, that the flag of the 13 United States be 13 stripes, alternate red and white, that the Union be 13 stars, white in a blue field, representing a new constellation. In 1877, the first Flag Day was celebrated, 100 years after the Continental Congress adopted the flag. In 1916, President Wilson proclaimed June 14th as the official date for Flag Day. In 1949, President Harry Truman officially made Flag Day a day of national observance. All Americans are encouraged to fly the U.S. flags during that week. That just goes to show us that even back in the 17, 18, and 1900s, it took a while to get things in place. We think it's just something that's come about now, but that's not the case. While the look of the flag has changed more than a few times over the years, the American flag has remained a symbol of freedom and justice. The 13 stripes, alternating red and white, with the blue field, remained with each new version. There was something else on June the 14th. That was the birth date of the United States Army. Congress adopted the American Continental Army after reaching a consensus position in the Committee of the Whole, June 14th, 1775. So little tidbits of information to get us started tonight. You have the minutes of the meeting from May the 23rd. Does anyone find any problems with the minutes? We usually don't, because Robin does such a good job. All those in favor of approving the minutes, raise your right hand.
And I'm gonna abstain since I wasn't present.
Anyone opposed? I'm sorry, I should have asked for honorary, but they probably hadn't had a chance to read the minutes. We'll catch you in the next vote. So it has passed. The minutes are approved. Do we have public comment tonight?
Madam Chair, if I may, I would just like to take this moment to also welcome our new commissioner, Debbie Quarternick. And yes.
It's hard to realize that she's brand new as a full commissioner because she's been such a loyal alternate. Thank you, Debbie.
Also, I would just like to acknowledge that everybody is here this evening.
How about that? That's great. We will not have a special presentation this evening. I think that's been pushed off until July. News from the Wildwood Historical Society.
Well, you have your two new student members and our two interns have started for the summer. We have two high school interns from Rockwood School District. I think it's only for like 40 hours or so, but they worked all this past week. And what they're doing is they're digitizing all of the old photographs and stuff that we have,
how
which
wonderful.
has been dumped in boxes for years. Tomorrow night's our regular meeting. If anybody wants to come, our speakers speaking about Beyond the Gates of Bellefontaine Cemetery,
Bellefontaine. Yes, I
I
have trouble
grew up
saying
in
that
the
as well.
Bellefontaine Cemetery. And I think he's speaking more about the Civil War generals and those era of people that are buried there. And then in July, we're getting a visit from the St. Louis Historic Site meetup group. It's 25 or 30 people that I don't know if it's every week or once a month. They go around to different historic places or whatever in the city and the county. And they asked to come and visit us. So we're going to provide them lunch and they'll tour the museum and our meeting hall. And that's all we have from the Historical Society.
Okay, well, thank you very much. It's exciting, I know. Moving on now to old business. Ready for action, we have 7 items. The first one is the recommendation report on Mr. Scott's home going on the Wildwood Historic Registry.
Madam Chair, members of this commission. Our first item on the agenda, as noted, concerns nominating Mr. Scott's home to the Wildwood Historic Register. Which is known as the Hyman Scott House. This home was built circa 1859, according to the Wildwood Historic Building Inventory, or 1905, according to the St. Louis County Assessor's Office. Tonight, the department is presenting a recommendation report to this commission. As you may recall, we held a public hearing for this item at the last meeting, and Mr. Scott gave a very nice presentation about the residential evolution of his home. So primary to the consideration of Mr. Scott's home to the Wildwood Historic Registry is its very dynamic story of when it was originally built as a dog trot log cabin, to how it evolved over time using different methods of residential construction and craftsmanship to the modern contemporary home that it is today. And that is the primary argument Mr. Scott has for nominating it. The department would note that the home does meet the age threshold requirement for nominations to the Wildwood Historic Register, which is 75 years old. It also meets 6 of the 13 criteria of the Historic Preservation and Restoration Code. Notably, that its character, interest, or value is part of the development, heritage, or cultural characteristics of this community. It is identified with a person or persons who significantly contributed to the development of the community. And for this, we looked at Mr. Scott's record with the Historic Preservation Commission and felt that he very much fit that qualification.
Spurs.
The home does embody distinguishing characteristics of an architectural type, valuable for the study of period, type, and method of construction or use of indigenous materials. And in fact, we get to study several periods of different types of residential methods of construction in this regard. It does embody design, detailing materials, or craftsmanship that render it architecturally significant. And I would particularly note the Tucker family's contributions to the masonry associated with the home and some of the craftsmanship that, such as the crosses that were placed into the mantle and chimney. It is suitable for preservation or restoration. Mr. Scott does plan to maintain it in its current state. And as a registered architect, he is very knowledgeable about interpreting its history through time and making that a focus of the home. And then finally, it has the potential to yield information important to our history, particularly the evolution of residences in this area from earlier time periods to what they now look like today over time. So the department is recommending that this commission endorse the nomination this evening, given that it meets 6 of those criteria. It actually only needs to meet 1 to be considered for the historic registry. We have listed the standard items triggering a certificate of appropriateness review for the exterior of the residence, and believe that they are reasonable and allow for the protection of the building and do maintain the character of the area. And then finally, we would just note that the Hyman Scott House is a unique and dynamic story of how a home in rural West St. Louis County, now known as Wildwood, changes throughout time to meet the shifting needs of its residents. So with that said, the department is requesting that this commission take action on its report this evening. And depending on that action, we will be modifying this report in the commission's voice to the Wildwood City Council for presentation back to you next month, where you'll give us final approval, and then we'll move forward to a public hearing at City Council. If you have any questions at this time, Director Vunich and I are available to answer them. Otherwise, we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. I would like to ask for a motion for this, and then we'll have discussion after that.
So move.
Is there a second? Rob has seconded. Any comments, questions, or anything about this before we take a vote? Yes, Rob.
What do we normally do? I'm not familiar with this, with the end stage of the process. Do we provide a little plaque or something like that for the home to put on the outside?
Yes, that is part of the Wildwood Historic Register program.
Great. Okay.
Good.
Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Scott.
If I could, yes. That was the incentive I insisted on, was getting up. At the last meeting, there was interest and comment about the stone pillars that are not on our property, but along Tamara Trail. I have heard from numerous of our neighbors about this. A couple of them have shown interest in either doing this individually by themselves, maintaining those pillars. One of the people, our next door neighbors, sent me a copy of their survey that shows those pillars are on their property.
Hmm.
And he is willing to either as part of the road association or as individuals to take care of those pillars. And I think he would probably be interested, if that's the case, in having those nominated as being on his property. So I think there was interest in that. I've got a copy of, well, clip from his survey that shows where they are. And so I think there is interest, and that several people are interested in doing that. So there might be a future for those stone pillars.
Well, that would be exciting. Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Got another quick question to
Yes.
follow up to that. I think that's great news. I wonder if anyone has any idea what the objects were that were on the pillars before they got swiped, because I can't recall for the life of me what they were.
I am the oldest resident in residency there. And I don't know.
Yeah, okay. They were probably gone before you got
I'm
there.
afraid that has been lost to history.
Yeah, I was hoping there would be a photo or something.
No, and that's, when we moved in there, it had these two little pipes sticking out the
Yeah.
top.
Mhm.
Well, perhaps while the interns at the Historical Society are digitizing some photos, maybe photo of them will show up along the way. We'll keep our fingers crossed. Thank you. All right, we're ready for a vote, and I would like our two honorary commissioners to vote yes or no, that this should be put on the historic registry. And so I'm asking now, if you are in favor of this, please raise your right hand. Thank you. You may put him down. And since there's no one else to put up, no, it has passed with them. So thank you so much. Now I'm asking the commissioners, if you are in favor of this, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Any noes? Anyone abstaining? It has passed. So it's exciting. Thank you so much. Page. Historic building inventory.
Madam Chair, members of this commission, as you may recall, at the end of last year, the department presented on an item regarding the update to the Wildwood Historic Building Inventory. And the commission voted to move forward with surveying 43 properties in Wildwood from 1948 to 1950 to finish updating our inventory through 2025. Well, tonight we have a guest presenter in the house, Michael Allen, who was hired with the Preservation Research Office to conduct this work for us. He's been hard at work inventorying the properties and has a progress update tonight. So I will turn it over to him.
Thank you.
Well, just you. All right, good evening. Good evening, commissioners. It's good to be here in person. I think I saw some of you during the pandemic a couple of years back when I presented on historic landmark and landscape preservation. But tonight I'm here to give you one of two updates. The final one will be next month on this survey process, which will expand the inventory of surveyed buildings in Wildwood to meet the 75-year mark, and then some, because 1950 falls just a little bit ahead of that. And the 43 count is in part due to how a few buildings at the time when this started in 2023 would have made the mark. So we're going a little further. Just to sort of refresh anyone who has forgotten or anyone who's new, we have 11 buildings from 1943, 9 from 1949, and most of these buildings in 1950, 23 buildings in all. And this construction sort of pattern follows both local and national trends with sort of a paucity of construction during World War II, through the war effort, and then an increase in single family construction following the United States Congress's enactment of the 1948 and 1949 Housing Acts, which expand mortgage guarantees. So there's a flurry of construction in St. Louis County and suburban areas all across the country. This is also the period where St. Louis County's population increases by over 48%. In 1940, the population was around 274,000. By the end of 1950, it would be 406,349. So we're tracking with countywide trends, of course, on a more modest scale. The field work has been completed and archival research is underway. We're moving into in the next few weeks, building descriptions and the final report, which I'll come back to the commission with next month. I just wanted to kind of share a few of the preliminary findings and some of the questions I have. So the staff here prepared this excellent trip planner. I just wanted to show the coverage of this area, and we'll have a final map that kind of details this by parcel. But these houses are all over. There's a few notable concentrations, but largely there's sort of a diffusion across the area. And in this type of survey, obviously, sometimes you run into this scene. This is at the end of Christie Lane. This is one of the nicer moments to meet the private property sign because you can still get a photograph of the house without intruding and trespassing across that line. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case with every property. And so here's a list of addresses. If anybody knows anyone who resides at these addresses, or you reside, please get in touch with Robin and myself, because these are the ones that are too far down the point of no trespassing or warning, or in the case of the property in St. Albans Road, I was about to take a photograph when someone working on the property shooed me away. So I had a visual inspection and some notes, but no required photograph, which we need for the survey. But it's a small number of properties, and it is to be expected given the sort of patterns of development here. It's a lot smaller than we really thought could happen. We're tracking a lot of exemplary property types that fit patterns that are common in architectural books like the Virginia and Lee McAllister's Field Guide to American Houses. Most of the buildings we're finding are these modest frame houses in some adaptations of ranch or Cape Cod styles. Very simple, though, with minimal detail, and those stylistic terms are probably overstating what I'm finding. By and large, there is this concentration on Lindy Lane, where we have 4 houses here, 3 of them built in this period in a cluster, but widely different materials and styles. We have the brick house, the lower right. We have 2 frame houses. We have, as you can see, degrees of alteration. The house at the top right with its brick veneer, replacement windows, non-historic shutters, and at the top left, that asbestos siding could be original, certainly would have been used in the period. We have original wooden windows and porch details. So some buildings do have integrity. It's not to say any of them will end up being determined eligible for the city register. There's some that require further research, and these are just 3 where there are dates that come from the assessor's office that may or may not match the actual original construction of the building. For instance, at the top left on Wild Horse Creek Road, the date of 1950 seems to be betrayed by the jerkin head roof, that is the hip roof that pitches forward, and the veranda construction, which seemed to really comport to earlier movements in American architecture. So there's some archival research to sort out with a property like that. What exactly happened in 1950? Is that the origin of this building, or is it an addition that somehow triggered the assessor's office? Obviously, in the city and in the county, most of the assessor's dates are, to a historian's view, needing to be kicked like a fresh tire, because they are not drawn from building permit records, despite what assessor staff may tell you, or what public hearsay goes. Yes. Oh. Is it from 1950? Was it built in 1950? Okay. All right. Well,
Well, that's good.
I'll
Thank
try
you.
in a minute. You get some information. The same at the right, we have, you know, homes that have evolved like this house on Ridge Road. Maybe it's a section that's dating to 1949. Maybe it's the original in this bungalow at the lower right that has also expanded in different ways. An interesting property kind of connects back to an earlier survey we did with Wildwood, where we looked at the Church of God in Glencoe from 1937. And next door at 223 Woolsey Lane is another similar frame structure with a simple gable roof built on a rusticated stone foundation that seems to be associated with the church, although some property chain of title needs to be done to further establish what this building was used for. Obviously, the vinyl siding is not original. And then, you know, part of the task obviously is to evaluate architectural history in addition to local history. And most of the houses are comporting to sort of generalized forms where we wouldn't say they're, you know, notable, but these are three here that kind of stand out in terms of the quality of design and the sort of progressive tendencies. The house at Manchester Road, at the top left, that's one of the ones where the no trespassing sign is so far back on the property that I was able to at least pull in and get this shot. It's a very large and distinguished house for 1950, showing traits of the modern movement that are a little ahead of the time. So it's definitely worth thinking about. I'm not going to say at this point yet what any conclusions might be. The top right too is a very early ranch house on Highway 109. Very large and very refined in its detail and construction. And then at the lower right, this brick home on Atherton Road, not far from the city hall here. These are ones that, you know, definitely have a little greater interest. But as of yet, you know, I haven't found anything that would definitely make me assert any city historic register eligibility. And I doubt I'm going to conclude that anything is eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. And of course, caveat for the city historic registry with that 75-year cutoff, the 23 properties in 1950 wouldn't yet be eligible in 2024. So we'd have to wait till next year. But there should be some findings by the next meeting. And if there, you know, is any conclusive sort of recommendation for eligibility, it will be clearly stated and defended. But expect a report with general trends, tendencies, and anything that's distinct, interesting, and apparently potentially erroneous in the date. So that could help the city with further housekeeping in the future. Happy to take any questions now.
Anyone have any questions? Yes, Scott, Steve.
Okay, I would take the county's dates with a grain of salt. The fact our house was noted, the county says it's 1905. I've got the county atlas map showing our house there in 1870. And I think, at least when in our house, the county was unable to trace the ownership back before the property was subdivided, and Tamara Trail became Tamara Trail, and we got addresses on it. So I often think that they cannot find records of these, and they pick a date.
Mm-hmm.
So I would question that. I think your local information on such as who was born there and when
Right.
is a lot more reliable than the county will give you.
I agree. Thank you.
I had a question, mostly for the department. So once, obviously, once Mr. Allen comes back with more information, and then we have all of these properties that either would be eligible or close to being eligible once the time arrives, do we ever communicate with the homeowners to see if they want to seek any sort of joining the registry themselves? I imagine it's much easier when you have the homeowners' participation.
In the past, we've done an open house. We send a copy of the survey to them. We include a letter basically saying, here's what we've done. You'd like to add, subtract. And then we have an open house and invite everyone to come so that they can meet Mr. Allen if he's available. And then if there's any changes, we do them at that time. If they have photographs they'd like to attach to it. We usually have something like a root beer float and cookies, so we
Always have to have food.
And when was the last, did I miss it? When was the last?
I want to say it was 2020. COVID.
So I
Been a
did,
bit.
right. Well, it's on my calendar. I don't know the date or when we're doing it, but I can't wait to be there. Wonderful. Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Allen.
I'll just note that the properties where I couldn't find access, the department will be notifying those property owners trying to get permission so I can get a photo. That'll be by letter, whether or not they respond. We can't control that, of course. But there are other sources like Google Earth information to try to at least get the basic idea of what the house looks like.
Avi, do you have a question or comment?
I would say for the Wildwood Historic Register, and keep in mind, there's a National Historic Register as well, but for the Wildwood Historic Register, I just showed you a presentation of a house that we're considering for nomination that has gone from a dog trot log cabin to a very contemporary structure that looks very different today. So I think in the city of Wildwood, it can change pretty significantly so long as it can still tell a story to us of its historic significance. And that's really what it comes down to. Can the house still tell a story?
Thank you. Anyone else? Rob?
Be sure you turn your microphone on because we can hear you in the room, but they can't hear you on the recording at all. So just be advised. Anyway, you listed 43 properties and you had them numbered and you gave us that nice map. I'm wondering if we can get a copy of that map because I have a list of properties here, but I don't have the map, and it's some of these locations I know, but some of them I don't. And I think everybody else is like that. So
That's more for me, and I can get that to the
great. Thank you.
commission.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where on the road like Etherton,
Right.
Could be any.
It's very-
Anyone else? Well, Mr. Allen, we thank you so much. This is
Yes.
very enlightening.
Yep.
We look forward to seeing you again
I'll be
next
back.
month.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Do we need to make a motion to list these properties at this time, or is that next month?
Madam Chair, we're not quite ready to
Okay.
make that motion, but we'll advise you when the time
Okay.
is appropriate.
Good. The Essen Log Cabin reconstruction update.
Madam Chair, members of this commission. First, I would like to give you an update on the Essen Log Cabins designation process to the Wildwood Historic Register. Public hearing for the Essen Log Cabin was held at City Council this month, and the recommendation report from this commission was forwarded to it as well. There was a first reading conducted of legislation, so that puts it on track for next month to have a final reading and an action upon the historic nomination. So that's where that is. But tonight, we'd like to circle back with you because we do have final reconstruction plans associated with the cabin that are before you. And what we would like to do, this commission has given its approval for a near final set along with some draft specifications documents, which aren't quite ready yet. But what we'd like to do is circle back with you and get that approval for the final construction set this evening. If you have any questions for this department, certainly Director Vunich and I are available to answer them, but I am also going to promote Ms. Quigley, who is available to answer questions regarding this final plan set as well. So let me go ahead and do that.
Hey, Robin, I guess I have a question. Do we know what changed between the last time we reviewed these and now?
Actually, I think that's a great question for Ms. Quigley. Carol, did you hear that question? You might
I'm
want to
so
repeat
sorry, I
it.
did not hear that question.
This is Kurt Hensick. I'm asking what changed between the last time we reviewed these and the set we have now, if anything.
The last time, between April and now, the only modification was the construction detail, which Mr. Scott and I had gone back and forth on, discussing a couple different ways to do a framing detail at the doors. And so I have altered that to reflect a sort of rough framing member combined with the door frame in lieu of a plank frame that would sort of operate in a similar fashion.
Okay, that's easy. Thank you.
You're welcome. And congratulations really to Robin and the department. It was great to hear the approval or recommendations of the cabin being on the historic resource inventory. And so I'm really happy that that's been successful, and that will really pave the way for a smooth process for approval from the city for the construction drawings and moving forward with construction itself.
I think my only question was just if Commissioner Scott, just as our resident architect and someone who's been so hands-on with this project, that small change that was made to the door, are you good with the change? Do you feel like the change is okay? Great.
Yes.
Trust me,
Yes,
architecturally.
I checked that. I noticed that. I agree with what she's showing now. I think these drawings are excellent. I think we're ready to build it. All we need is a contractor who knows how to build it.
Well, that is interesting, Mr. Scott, that you should bring that up. And I know it's a little bit tangential here, but I apologize for not being able to join the meeting last month. And I probably sent too lengthy some commentary on our visit out to one of the other regional parks. So just as a little tidbit, I just wanted to note that some of my colleagues in St. Louis were at a preservation event somewhere in the last month, and ran into Mr. Francis, who was the gentleman that we met with out in Foss Park, and he was receiving a sort of a lifetime service award, service and preservation award, and my colleagues introduced themselves to him, not realizing that he was the person that we had met with. So they were like, "Hey, Carol, just in case there's this guy." Mr. Francis, and he knows all this stuff about building log cabins. And of course I said, well, that's exactly who we had met with. But he did say again, sort of we'll let him know if he could help. And I don't know precisely, how this employee of the city could help. I mean, ideally, he could take a sabbatical from the city and then, be contracted to build the log cabin himself. And that would be the most ideal world possible. But I just wanted to repeat that he has expressed a willingness. I just don't know exactly how that can be best employed. But just want to sort of repeat that and pass that on. And I hope that we might be able to reap some benefit from his offer in some arrangement as we move forward.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Rob.
Have to speak. Do we have a good handle on the timeline for construction, start of construction? Is it this year yet? Going to start soon?
From the perspective of the Village Green and all of the support components for the cabin, that'll start on Wednesday.
Really? We're going to start constructing the cabin on Wednesday?
No, I'm talking about the Village Green and all of the support components, being the utilities, all of the grading, et cetera. That should all begin this coming Wednesday. We finally got the permit from the Missouri Department of Natural Resources to proceed forward with land disturbance.
Hallelujah.
From the perspective of the cabin, if the vote is favorable tonight, we'll begin the process of preparing the bid package that will be advertised. And certainly we'll send one to Mr. Francis. We'll send one to anyone that in the past we've contacted about cabin reconstruction.
That's why I asked. Oh, sorry, folks. The the tornado that hit a couple weeks ago took out 100 of my grand trees, and I am determined to salvage that lumber. And if I can get a material list sooner rather than later, like 2x8 oak, 16 feet or something like that, I'm gonna be taking a bunch of logs out of my woods, hauling them to a sawmill, sawing them up, hauling them to a kiln, having them dried, and then they'll just be sitting around and I'll be giving the wood away because I don't care about making the money. I just care about using the wood. And so this is an opportune time if I can make that happen. But the starting point for me is a material list. And if I can get one of those sooner rather than later, that would be wonderful. Because I can probably save us some money.
Well, thank you very much, Rob.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a
That's
tragedy,
really
a
generous. That's
heartbreak,
wonderful.
heartbreak.
Yes.
Yep, yeah, it was. It's the way it works. So anyway, so if I can get one of the material lists, and it may, I don't know if it's in the bid spec or if the contractors will come back with such a list or what, but I was just noticing like the stair treads and stringers and a lot of the interior stuff and whatnot. I mean, that's probably going to be oak, I would think.
A lot of it, that could be very, very useful.
Yeah, I'm gonna have some Primo cherry, and we don't get a lot of it around here. Most of that comes from Pennsylvania, but we do have great walnut. I'm gonna have some of that, and there's gonna be red oak and white oak. So, and some other stuff too, which we could throw in just for local flavor. So, anyway, let me know. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Okay, then I think we're ready for a motion to accept the final plans and give them the ability to move forward.
And can we also have the discretion to finalize that
Yes.
specifications document in consultation with Pattern Ives and our architects as well?
Okay, it has been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alan. Any more discussion on this? Okay, honorary commissioners, what is your vote? Raise your hand if you vote yes. Thank you very much. They have voted yes. That's good to see.
Madam Chair, if I may, they are not honorary commissioners, but their vote is
Right,
honorary
right.
this evening. I just want to make that clarification that they have been officially
They
appointed
are
by our
official,
mayor.
yes. And we're so happy about that. So they have voted. Now it's ready for the full commissioners. If you are in favor of this, raise your right hand. Thank you. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? It has passed. We can move forward.
Thank you.
I do have a quick question. Does this have to go to St. Louis County for them to?
Yes, it does.
Well, Ms. Quigley, I think we're done with this item, so I'm going to demote you. Thank you
right,
so
thanks
much for
very
coming
much,
this
Al.
evening.
Thank
Good
you.
to have you with us this evening, Ms.
It was my
Quigley.
pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, moving on now to the African American History Project. Move from one exciting thing to another. There we go.
Okay. Madam Chair, members of this commission. Tonight, we'd like to provide you with an update on our African American History Trail project or Heritage Trail, or however we would like to go forward with it. As noted at our last meeting, this trail project was presented to the Planning and Parks Committee and was successfully endorsed there. It has since also been presented to the Wildwood City Council. So we are now in a position where we can go. We have green light to start some of the engagement around this project. One comment that has come up frequently. Why is my clicker not? One comment that has come up frequently is a question regarding funding the trail and what the overall cost of this project is going to be. The department has avoided answering that question to date because we really don't know, not until we go out there and engage the community and start laying the groundwork for a vision regarding the trail project. And there's a lot of factors that go into that cost question. And until we talk to people, it's going to be hard to get to that ballpark. However, we have identified a way to go about funding the trail, which we would like to propose to you this evening. And really how we would like to start with this project is by identifying grant opportunities, engaging the community, and then hopefully setting up some cost sharing with various entities that might get involved in such a project like this one. So that's our primary method of funding it. So versus putting a budget item into city council and assuming that we're going to take on the full cost of this trail, let's first identify a grant, see who might partner with us, and then go from there. And of course, any grant application would involve a process that takes us through every level anyway. So we'll all be in the loop at that point. The other thing we would like to recommend, based on a suggestion that came out of Wildwood City Council from a council member as well, is a citizen-based fundraising component, potentially piloting one of those crowdfunding platforms like we discussed with the Route 66 Roadside Park project. So that might be an opportunity to also solicit individual donations from people who are just really excited about this kind of trail project in Wildwood or outside of Wildwood. So this is what we're thinking in terms of moving forward with a funding strategy. Obviously, as conversations are had, as we move forward, we'll refine this over time, but this is where we're at in terms of what we're thinking. So before I move on to the rest of my presentation, I would like to stop here and check in with the commission and see if you have any thoughts as to how we're going about the funding of the trail.
My only question was about identifying grants. Is there somebody specifically within the department who does that? Basically, does the city have like a grant writer that they engage with, or is it just the hard work of you two?
Generally it's performed in-house, though occasionally, occasionally we could contract out. It just depends.
That's manly.
Yep. Okay. I am assuming that this commission is therefore in favor of this funding strategy. Okay.
Go for it.
All right. Secondly, we wanted to propose a draft engagement plan because this is really truly the next step. I've listed, I have a pretty lengthy engagement plan chart within your memorandum this evening, and I'm just going to touch on all of the various strategies that we've identified. And then the goal is to have this commission help us refine that strategy. But some of the ongoing strategies for a trail project like this is first to engage. And we think we can do that through some really high quality videos. So for example, we can have a high quality video of Doris Keevan Frankie, who's writing a book about Archer Alexander at the trail, at the ferry crossing, talking about Archer Alexander's story. We can enlist help from our Westland Acres community to promote some of the history around the Westland Acres community. We can get our youth members out in front, promoting the trail project and engaging the school community. And so basically just kind of taking it from different angles and having some really high quality visual content that we can incorporate it into our presentations, into social media strategies, wherever, such a video might be helpful. And I've seen very compelling videos work for this kind of project. I've had some very successful launches just based on high quality videos and case studies. So that's one strategy. Second, we've got Doris Keevan Frankie with her upcoming book. That's a great opportunity to share some promotional opportunities. And then, of course, keep everyone engaged throughout the process through all of the city's various media channels. In terms of where we want to start and where we want to end up, we'd like to start with the Union Baptist Church. We've been talking about having a project in collaboration with the Westland Acres community for a while. And this is really a wonderful opportunity to re-engage them, to discuss this trail project, to talk about potential designations of Union Baptist Church and the cemetery in their community, and any other ideas that they might have. But we'd really like them to be involved, obviously, from the get-go. So we're thinking the first step would be to set up a meeting with Union Baptist Church. Then the thought is to go larger. And that's when we bring in all of the area entities that might have some stake in the trail. And so I've tried to list all of those out in my memorandum. I've already thought of 2 at least that I need to put on the list. It's one of those things you're just constantly thinking of new people who need to be involved. But we'll have a larger stakeholder meeting. We'll have a call to action. We'll ask them to get involved, to commit, and potentially put together some agreements. Involve area schools. We have a very good relationship right now with the Rockwood School District out of the Route 66 Roadside Park Project. We can potentially talk to their social studies coordinator and see if we can't get various history classrooms to be involved in the project who might be studying that specific period of history. Having a working committee set up. My thought, to avoid having a whole lot of extra meetings, is the working committees an opportunity to invite some outside entities to really partner with the project and be a part of all the ongoing discussions around it, including Union Baptist Church or Wildwood Historical Society, and any others who might be more involved in the actual work of the project. And so potentially we could hold a working committee when we have our commission meetings. And so when this topic comes up, we can invite our working committee to have that conversation.
Could I interject
Sure.
a little bit of information here? In your memorandum, you list the Chesterfield Historic Landmark and Preservation Committee.
Yes.
That has been deleted, is no long. They have to have what everything is that they have to do. I don't know, but Jim and I had lunch with one of those committee members. She was on the commission and then the committee, and she's very involved with the museum. Of course, we know the museum has to be out by the middle of August, out of the Chesterfield Mall position. They don't know what they're going to do, so they're putting things in a use store it that belong to the committee. Other things are there on loan from other people in the community. The city has things in there. Those will go back to the city. They don't know what the city's going to do with them.
No.
They are a non-functioning entity as of the middle of August.
So they are completely disbanded. 'Cause
Completely
I
disbanded
had
by
gotten
the
the
city.
other report that they were rebounding, but that's not the case.
As of last
Okay.
Wednesday when I had lunch with them, no.
Okay.
Just so that you know what their situation
So they're
is.
not just losing the museum, but they're also
They're out of
disbanded
the
as a
city,
group.
yes.
Okay.
They're
All
hoping
right.
to keep going maybe, you know, as a society or something, but they do not know at this time what's going to be happening.
Well, we will just have to engage the city then, certainly. And it
Maybe it
sounds
shows
like-
that they need their commission.
It sounds like more work for Wildwood, but anyways.
Sorry about that.
Well, anyway, we're still proposing that we assemble a working committee so we can get some of
Yes.
these other voices involved. There's a potential to enlist sponsorships from nearby businesses. And, you know, that can come in the form of funding. It can come in the form of, you know, granting easements for our project and other types of support. And then, of course, once funding has been obtained, then we can do, you know, an even broader engagement, get a project sign up at the trail and start doing the design work. And then, of course, once the trail is completed, publicize it a lot. But if you look in my memorandum, the goal is to involve as many interested entities as possible and see kind of who floats to the top, who wants to be involved from there and see where it goes, because I've seen these things, you know, snowball.
Yes, Chris?
Was one of the two that you thought of to put back on here, Great Rivers Greenways too?
Great Rivers Greenway should be in there.
Did I miss it?
I would,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's
I
in
looked
there.
over it. My bad.
I was thinking maybe the Army Corps should be in there. But anyway, what is, the department would respectfully request feedback from this commission on this draft engagement plan. Certainly, we don't have to nail down every detail tonight. You're welcome to send us comments over time, but if there's a discussion to be had, of course, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yes, Avi.
I was interested in knowing if the length of the trail has been measured.
I believe it's 11 miles long. Is that
Wow.
correct, Director Vunich? 11 miles.
I was just thinking that like partnerships with local running organizations and biking organizations would help publicize the trail.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
Do you want a motion from us this evening?
If this commission feels ready to endorse this engagement plan, then yes. If you want to sit on it and, you know, present feedback, we can certainly, you know, give it a little more time. Just what do you think?
Open for discussion, Chris.
Just gonna go ahead and make a motion. Yeah, I'll make a motion that we accept it as presented with the understanding that things will change, it'll be improved over time.
Of course.
Any other discussion on it? Honorary vote is up now for the commissioners. Thank you very much. For the regular commissioners, please raise your right hand if you're in favor of this motion. Thank you. Anyone opposed or abstaining? Go forward and keep us in touch.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. That brings us to the end of that item.
Okay. And the next item on the list is the historic community mapping activity.
All right, Madam Chair and Commissioners, as you are aware, at your last meeting, this commission voted to go forward with another June history tent at the Music on Main concert. And that is this Friday. And I have a full set of volunteers. So thank you all very much for your enthusiastic support. I look forward to working with you at the tent. However, a key component of that tenting activity is to promote our historic communities theme. And to do that, we came up with the idea that we are going to create a big map of Wildwood identify the various historic communities within it, and then create areas of those historic communities so that every single resident in Wildwood can identify with one of them. So we had a nice long back and forth conversation over email, which is attached as part of this agenda item. And the map you see before you in your packets today, and there's also a larger version back there if you want to, if there's any more boundary adjustments to be made, is what we came up with. So that's our professionalized version of the map. Still subject to small aesthetic tweaks this week up until the concert. But the goal is to get it before the commission this evening for your approval as to the boundaries and the general format of it. Again, the goal is to encourage all Wildwood residents to identify with a historic community area, to raise awareness of residents and visitors of Wildwood's historic communities and where they're located, and to use this activity as a segue into a conversation about our upcoming Historic Preservation Plan initiative. So the thought is that we first ask them where they live. They point it out. We give them a pin or a sticker to show us where they live, so that we have kind of a record of who's coming to see us. We give them the historic community sticker for where they live. And then we say, yeah, this is one component of our historic preservation plan effort. And we give them the informational handout about our historic preservation plan. So the goal is to keep that plan in everybody's minds. So as a part of the evolution of this mapping process, it was noted that we wanted fuzzy boundaries between these areas because the truth of the matter is there's never been any defined historic community areas outside of the core community. So we have fuzzy areas to indicate that these boundaries have changed over time and that it's, more of an idea than an actual reality. We're going to add a disclaimer to the map. It's not there yet, but I promise we will add it. That speaks to the fuzziness of these boundaries and that they're more conceptually and that they change throughout time based on the post office, as we've discussed via email. And then finally, we did place those hot spots on the map to identify where the historic community core is located. And we added an established date as well, so they get a sense of when those communities were established. We are advocating that we don't make this map any more complicated than it already is, because for the purpose of the tent engagement activity, we want to keep things simple. However, we would note that we can certainly keep refining this map, especially in consultation. Once we hire a consultant for our historic preservation effort, there's an opportunity to further refine that map so that we can utilize it for other purposes down the road. So tonight, the department would request endorsement of this map along with any changes. Just knowing that we have a week to do this, we have to turn it around by Friday. And then we'll move forward.
I just had, so you raised your hand. You guys are so good.
So being as I'm gonna be working the tent, will there be like a list of street names or something? Like if somebody goes, I'm not sure if I'm in Centaur or whatever. I mean, will there be some kind of, dedicated list that they go, oh yeah, I'm in that area?
For the purpose of the activity, just have them do their best guess. And if they're right on the edge of two historic communities, give them 2 stickers. That's how I would handle it, and just say that. And then again, as you go into the segue about the historic preservation planning effort, say we're hoping to refine our map through that process. And, we may have a more, specific map over time, but the reality is these boundaries were never, really set to begin with. So you very well could live in both Melrose and Fox Creek.
So my comment kind of builds off of Debbie's was, one, I think you're right. I think the idea of let's not make the map more complicated than it is. But I was thinking with the giant map at the tent, considering we're already placing pins, could it be helpful for us to have some like hotspot pins already in. So for instance, like you are here, this is Town Center, this is Big Chief. This is just ones that we can put in where I know
Landmarks.
I live in Glencoe hypothetically, but if you were like, hey, this is where I can't even think, this is where Austin Fort starts, I would,
Yeah.
totally. I would be able to like definitely orient myself. I also am not good with maps.
Right.
So,
No, I like that idea.
so I'm kind of on the same topic and I realize this is Friday, so this is probably unrealistic. But so my original thought was, could you put kind of some of the main roads highlighted? Could you, again, I don't think this is possible on Friday. Could you have like a clear overlay, like that shows some of the main roads and you pull it out of the way for people just to kind of give them a location? You don't want their stickers on the clear overlay, but like, could you have Big Chief highlighted on it? Could you have Babbler State Park? Could you have Rockwoods, that type of thing, just to give some highlights? And I realize you got to limit how much information you put on the map. The other alternative is maybe have the blown up points of interest map beside.
Next.
That's a
I think that might be the best. I think you just hit the nail on that one. I think we'll just have the Wildwood points of interest map right next to it.
That gives people some referential points to say, okay, well, yeah, this is roughly Westland Acres, or this is roughly Grover, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and I think that might be the way to do it, because you don't want to put too much information to where it starts getting very cluttered. But I think we should definitely have the points of interest map available right next to it.
Or a motion that they can move forward. Yes, Rob.
I just want to make an observation. In the next iteration of this map, I was looking at Melrose and Fox Creek. And if we had a little bit darker line for Highway 100 and 109 and for Austin Fort Road and just a few of the main, Melrose and the roads that people know, that would help them orient themselves, because I was having trouble, and I've been on every road in that area many times. I was trying to see just exactly where I couldn't find myself. So that might be a really helpful.
I'll talk to our GIS guru and see what we can do as far as highlighting some of those main arterial.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to have the name on it, just so people can find themselves.
Makes
This is
sense.
gonna be so exciting. I think there are so many people in our community who don't even know that, like, unless you live somewhere where you have a Grover or Glencoe address where you're fighting that battle all the time, I think that most people don't know about our community. So I'm so excited. I'm so jealous that I'm not gonna be there, but I'm so excited. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
I know Joe knows there was an entire community laid out in Melrose years ago. They had the streets and so on and so forth. And it was supposed to be a big deal, and then it never went anywhere. And it feels to me like it's partly in Fox Creek and partly in Melrose. Joe, am I all wet there?
Right. If that community of Melrose, I think I can get some information on it. This engineer I work with, his grandfather was a county surveyor, and he has records of that town with the map of that, the layout. There were seminaries there, and it was right in the middle. It's west of 100, quite a ways. Nothing ever came of it, but someplace I have seen the map of that, and I'll see if I can still get a copy. Yeah, in that area. Yeah. And I don't know if the Historical Society has any record of that, but I'll check with him again and see. I think he gave me a map and I've lost it, but yeah. But I'll see what I can. I'll talk to him and find out if I can still get that.
This is very nice. I always wonder why Glencoe Post Office is where it is. Not that far out.
Pretty big area, yeah.
I'll make a motion
Right.
to move forward with this beautiful historical communities of Wildwood map.
Sorry.
We're always really happy to hear what you have to say.
The Grover and Pond, where they crammed together on 109, on the west side of that, where the college is and so on and so forth, that was the Grover Gun Club. It wasn't the Pond Gun Club, it was the Grover Gun Club, because my family was there every Friday night. And there's so much lead in that field out there. You probably wouldn't believe it, but so that line maybe needs to be a little bit blurrier too, or maybe it just speaks to the fact that people just said, I'm from Grover. Well, I'm from Pond, and the Pond person might be over here and the Grover person might be over here, but I guess that's the way they did it back then. But anyway, I just want to mention that. Thank you. Sorry.
Well, people are from Pond and they're like, where?
It has been moved. Do we have a second? Dan has the second. Any more discussion on this? Okay, youth commissioners, what is your vote? Yes? Thank you very much. For the rest of us, raise your hand if you are in favor of this motion. Thank you. Anyone opposed or abstaining? Okay, we can move forward with it.
Thank you.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it's good work.
The stickers are so nice.
Aren't they great?
Guys.
I'm on one of those fuzzy line areas as well. Robin gave me
I'm in like three.
the two stickers. for Trying to figure out which one it's in, but it depends on what version of the map you're looking at. And it's what it is. It's kind of maybe nice to be into.
Well, you get two stickers if you're
Yeah.
into, so.
Stickers up in the kitchen. Okay, anything else on that? We'll move forward then to the work program update.
All right, Madam Chair, members of this commission. I had hoped to have an update for you regarding our Route 66 grant program. But unfortunately, the Economic Development Committee did not have quorum this evening. However, I can say that we did have that meeting. We talked about at our last meeting with the city administrator and our city attorney, and it was determined that it is feasible for us to put together this sort of grant program. We just need to now take it to the proper committees to have that discussion. So.
Do we know anything about what's going on with the license plates? Because I applied for that Route 66 license plate some time ago and haven't heard anything back from that. I know they were having a hard time trying to get enough people to do the license plate. I don't know if that ever came to be.
Honestly, with that being more of an initiative of the Route 66 Association, I don't have that answer, but I can certainly reach out to my contacts and find out for you.
They're still promoting them at the, I just have to go read my place. They're still promoting them at the DMV, so they haven't given up all hope.
Everyone get a Route 66 vanity plate so that they can meet their minimum. All right. I believe I had one more, or two more. Okay, I had two more updates. One is that I'm happy to announce that we have completed one of our work plan items, and that was to develop and administer an application process for the commission's inaugural youth members. And since we have two commissioners with us this evening, I would say that process has now concluded. So congratulations, we can check that one off.
Thank you.
Finally, I just wanted to mention, this isn't a major update, but Chair Stevens and I were at the cemetery in Babbler State Park Saturday evening. It was I guess it was more of a Coleman family cemetery, the one.
Coleman Tyler's.
Oh, it was both. Okay,
Mhm.
Coleman Tyler Cemetery. And and the guide for the program brought up our United States Colored Troops project and had us speak to it. And it sounded like they're still working on our partnership, so so it's still in the works. I don't
got
have
the-
a more
I
firm
got the
update.
feeling that, they at the park themselves are highly behind it. It's just waiting for the different levels above them to get everything approved.
Right. But we did get to talk about it as part of the program. So the word is getting out there. It was an engagement opportunity. And that's it for my updates unless Director Gunich has any to add. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair and members of the commission, as you know, each month we go through the agenda and there is a lengthy list of items that are identified as not ready for action. Some of those items have been under that heading for a number of months, if not a number of years. Tonight, you did an action relative to the Monarch Chesterfield Levee Trail. If you're kind of keeping track, that idea wasn't in fruition for very long. And part of my responsibility, not only to this commission, but to the other board, commission, task force, subcommittees, and et cetera, is to make sure we don't get stretched too thin, that we can't perform the core duties that are the responsibility of the Department of Planning and Parks. And so from that perspective, the department has reviewed that list of not ready for action items and is requesting that a few of them be removed. Not necessarily forgotten or otherwise not acted upon, but for the most part, there's logical reasons for their removal. For example, we had talked many years ago about the Cone Park sign and doing a special type of sign reflective of one of the members' skills as a blacksmith. That person's no longer on the commission nor has expressed an interest in proceeding forward. So without that particular person and that special set of skills, we probably need to invest our time and resources elsewhere as we move back to the Cone Park sign. The potential project with Westland Acres, obviously your action tonight with the Monarch Chesterfield Levee Trail, the Archer effort. We believe now, as Keith and I, that we can bring in a lot of these other components into that and certainly make it part of a larger effort that has a greater reach and I think will create a great deal more interest. And so from that perspective, that one isn't leaving the list, it's just being joined with something else that now seems to have the momentum that we all hope it would. And then the other item relates to the Memorial Tribute Program. As you know, we just completed Paul Wojciechowski's ceremony, which was the last step in that process. We also, from the commission perspective, have Judy Som as the next individual, and we will be working on the different components of that. From the perspective of the department, I don't think it needs to be an act on the agenda as a not ready for action. Once we finish Ms. Som, we'll put the item on the agenda and then we'll talk about the next individual or individuals that might be suitable for consideration. And then we'll do our research and provide that to you. For the most part, though, the remainders are things that we are working on and will continue to work on. And they do fluctuate between priorities of city council, priorities of other boards and commissions, and just daily workload. But for now, the department is respectfully requesting these three items be removed from the not ready for action agenda, not forgotten, but just removed. And then we can basically kind of refocus and make sure that we're doing the things we need to do as commission as directed the staff of the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Any discussion on this at this point? Yes, Mr. Marshall.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Second.
And Alan has seconded. Any more discussion on this? What you presented to us, Joe, makes a lot of sense, and we appreciate your efforts in this. So the honorary vote at this time, if you are in favor of this, please raise your hand. Thank you. Commissioners, if you are in favor of this, please raise your hand. Thank you. Anyone opposed or abstaining? It shall be done.
Thank you all. And again, I can assure you that between Ms. Keefe, myself and others in the Department of Planning and Parks, they won't be forgotten. Just you won't need to see them every month until we're ready to take action.
Thank you. That brings us down now to one item. I lost my place. So, I think we are ready for the demolition request
Yes, ma'am.
for Mary Cliff.
Well, I have good news. We're not ready to authorize the
Wonderful.
demolition. But I do want to apologize relative to this particular item. The attorney that represents the province that owns the property and the historic asset has been very patient with the city. And that individual and I have traded phone calls and emails relative to trying to set up that first scoping meeting as I've described it. We've not yet been able to make all of the components work, particularly on our end. We have a city attorney that I need to have in that meeting since this individual that's representing the province is an attorney and he's been on vacation. And then we have him doing a number of other things as well. So the update is it's still there. The Marinus province has been cooperative to date and haven't pressed for a response. And it is the intent to have that first scoping meeting with the representatives of the Marinus Retreat Center before the 4th of July holiday. So sometime in the next week or so. So my apologies for the delay, but again, the intent is to kind of move this to the front burner and start offering some options for the province to consider. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Then we have a second demolition request. We made the site visit during the air show on Wild Horse Creek Road. Robin, would you like to discuss that with us?
Madam Chair, members of this commission. As you may recall, an application was submitted for proposed demolition of the single-family dwelling located at 18060 Wild Horse Creek Road, which is in our far northeastern portion of Wildwood. There was some debate for a period of time whether or not the house would be rehabbed. But when the commission attended the site visit for the residents, it was determined at that time that the owners are proposing demolition for it. The commission did not have quorum at the site visit, so no decisions have been made. And given a number of you were not present, I have put together a picture slideshow for your review this evening. There are actually two structures upon the property that are proposed for demolition. Obviously, the single-family dwelling dated, I believe it was dated as 1895, according to our Wildwood Historic Building Inventory, and 1940, according to the maybe less reliable assessor's office. Sorry, I lost my train of thought here. Okay, well, anyway, oh, yes. So the single family dwelling and then one outbuilding in the form of a shed. They're actually looking to retain it throughout the construction of whether it's a rehab or whether it's new construction. They would like to retain it for storage during that time and then demolish it afterwards. Here is an aerial map of Wildwood. And that arrow is pointing to the property in question. So you can see it's up on Wild Horse Creek Road, past Atherton Road, really at the far eastern end of Wildwood. This is an aerial map of the property. This is the single family dwelling in question proposed for demolition, and then this is the shed. This is a picture of the residence. We're looking mostly north in this photo. This is the side of the residence viewed from the access drive, and we're looking west in this photo. Here we're looking south towards the rear of the lot. And here we're looking at Wild Horse Creek Road, looking north. Looking south. This is the location. I believe the story is there was originally an artist studio in this location, but it burned down. And so now there's just a platform there. And this is the shed proposed for demolition. Formerly an artist lived in the single family dwelling on the property. So here's some of the artwork. Here we're facing south in the interior of the residence. And here we're viewing that same view, but we're up above on the second floor loft looking down. And here's one more view of it. These spiral stairs go up to the second floor. The kitchen at the time had to be torn out of the home due to, I believe, termite damage and ant infestation and some leaks. So that was what it looked like. There were a number of stained glass windows throughout the residence. There was a fireplace and a wood burning stove. This is one of the bathrooms. There were a number of built-in features throughout. These are all, I believe, from different rooms. So that brings us to the end of the site visit. So obviously there's quite a bit of character to the residence. But as noted, the Historic Preservation Commission was not able to make any decisions at the site visit. So that is for you to discuss this evening. So I'd like to turn to the authority of the Historic Preservation Commission when it comes to making these decisions and having these discussions. So this commission has the authority to review any application that comes before it for demolition. This commission also has the authority to issue a response to the petitioners in regards to the demolition. This response can be issued within 30 days or it can be issued with one 30-day extension. And the response can include whether or not there's any recommendations regarding the salvage of the structure, or if this commission would like to nominate it to the Wildwood Historic Register. Generally, the idea behind this process is to make sure that no historic asset is lost forever and that at least some form of it is preserved, even if it's just a photographic record of it. In this case, the owners at the site visit did indicate they plan to salvage many of the architectural features you saw within the residence. I believe the goal for the property, well, actually, I'll let them speak to what their plans are for the property. But that brings me to the end of the department's presentation and what the commission is able to do this evening in regards to this residence. If you have any,
Are we going to be hearing from the owners?
yes, I'm
Before
gonna,
any further discussion on our part?
I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to them
Thank
so
you.
they can tell you their
Thank you.
plans. Yes, thank you.
Good evening.
Is that part of the house was added on way later. It's more modern. It's not part of the original house, which faces Walters Creek Road, the front of the house. There's no
Yeah.
pictures. There's no
I
pictures
think
of
there's
it.
actually been 2 additions, the back and then the front, the original. The old building didn't really have much of a foundation. It's really deteriorated. They got an air conditioner down there and a hot water heater, and they literally pump the condensed moisture out with a little pump. It's quite a bit of work if it's going to be preserved. I mean, incorrectly, and the infestation of the termites is quite extensive. We just got started in the kitchen because that's where we kind of noticed that there was some sagging in the floor, and I started to pull apart when we bought the house to see what our options were, and then that's when we kind of saw it was pretty bad, and we're just deciding to tear it down. So
It's not cost effective to save it.
What's your plans for the new home?
we're gonna put a 1.5 story, 4,000 square foot home there.
In the back of the lot.
Maintain existing footprint of the ground? You're not gonna subdivide or?
It's actually, the new house is not gonna be in the footprint of the old house.
No, but I mean, as far as the lot boundaries, you're not gonna change your lot boundaries?
No, there's a
Okay.
full acre there.
It's a perfect square.
And then the salvageable items, the clawfoot bathtub, the
Yes.
stained glass, the
Absolutely.
woodwork, what are you planning on doing with those types of things?
Keeping it for now.
Yeah,
To put
I
the
mean-
tub in my own bathroom.
Dang
because I'm
it.
gonna-
Talk you out of that
One.
tub. Oh, that's
Okay.
beautiful.
Staircase, but it is massive. I mean, it's, I don't know, they must have got it out of the city or something, but it's old and gonna be quite the undertaking. I think that was an addition itself. They bumped that out.
We have some not-for-profit organizations that will salvage things like that.
Sure.
And they put people without jobs to work, and then they resell it for people that want to rehab period houses. So anything that you didn't want to keep before you trashed it, they may come in and take it, put to good use.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Or donate it to your cabin if there's some usable. Was gonna take, I tore the kitchen apart and it was pretty, there's some good oak in there and it hasn't been eaten by termites, but I stopped at that, but
Salvage. He's.
Yeah.
He's a good- He saves everything. He's just like my dad.
Need a bigger shed. You need a bigger shed.
He's got 8 cars at garages already. Yeah. Bigger.
we like saving usable materials for sure.
No, it's sad. I mean, it's a really cool, quirky old house, and if it was cost effective to save it, by all means, but we would have had to probably tear off the one end of the house, which is the original part of the house, because it's so close to Wildhorse Creek Road. I mean, it's up on the hill, it's just, yeah, I mean, I've got a thing that shows how close to the road it is. This is like the original survey when it was.
The old Wild Horse further north, and then when they came through with the new Highway C, it was like right on the front porch. My dad grew up in a house that was like literally 50 feet from that one, and Chesterfield made him tear it down in the. I think
Yeah,
in
my
the-
grandma's
like
old
in
house.
1990.
Up where the,
That was a neat old
Garden.
building. That would have been really cool. And it would have been in Wildwood now, but
I
Yeah.
have 2 questions, one for Robin, and hopefully her answer will spur your answer. If this were to be demolished, what would you mentioned like not wanting to lose things to history completely and hoping for photos or as much as we could glean before the property came down. What would your ideal homeowner participation look like in that?
I think the department generally looks to this commission to provide direction on how best to preserve a structure before we start advising. If we are looking at salvaging and that sort of preservation, then I think we would just want to see that as much of it is salvaged as possible. and that a photographic record was taken of the home, which we did at the site visit.
Great. I just didn't know if there was a need for a loose commitment that if there needed to be more photos taken before it came down, if the department could come and snap some photos of your
Oh,
beautiful
absolutely,
home.
yeah.
A ton of pictures for you.
I
I mean, I was looking at the pictures that were presented and I'm like, okay. Most of it's all the newer part of the house, because none of those windows that you're looking at in that picture open. They're all solid. Stationary windows, they don't open. But there's a lot of, like in the main bedroom, on the second floor in the back. They're like built-in bookcases and, I mean, I don't think it has the original windows. I think they were probably like maybe from the 40s.
Yeah,
You
we
know,
were
they're
definitely.
single pane glass, you know, but they're in bad shape, all of them. Yeah, all the room walls are different colors and I mean, the kitchen was like all pieced together. It's just,
Yeah,
um,
they.
every single knob in the kitchen is different, you know, it's definitely an artist's house, so. There's none of the original kitchen or any of that left in the house. I mean, probably the bathroom upstairs is 2 bedrooms are probably the most. And then the main bedroom downstairs.
Yeah.
Is only part of the house.
So what you're saying that the pictures that were presented this evening are kind of leaves out the original section of the house. Robin, do we need to make arrangements to get pictures of that portion of the house?
Yes, I would love those pictures. I will admit that on that day, there was a bit of an air show.
That's, you could read the stuff on the bottom of the jet over. We were, even inside the house, we were all going, oh my gosh, we couldn't hear each other talk or anything. It was crazy.
I was dizzy and I had ear pain when I got back to City Hall. So I think we were all anxious to get inside the residence. There are more pictures than I showed here, that I took when I was there.
Okay.
So I do think, we covered quite a bit, but I would absolutely love a photo of the.
You know, like I'll take it like the.
Yes.
All the trim stuff like on the outside of the main porch, you know, the front.
That would be very nice. Thank you.
Spindle thing that we're looking
I actually believe I do have
You got
photos
those,
of that,
okay.
but I'll reach out to
at.
you.
Or whatever, I'll just take pictures of everything and just send it to you. And that way you can pick and choose what you want to keep or what you want to file for future use or.
Yeah, we were definitely gonna pull the newer portion of the house down. You know, kind of separate it and leave the original stuff and see what is actually there. I mean, I'm more curious about, like, I don't know if you know the Kirchhoff residence over in Chesterfield, but when they tore that down right across from elementary school, I had no idea that that was a 2-story log cabin.
Underneath all of it.
Yeah, underneath all of that. And I just,
They didn't.
yeah, no, I don't know where that all ended up going, but I don't think Chesterfield has the historic society like Wildwood does.
Do. They have had an office up at Chesterfield Mall. I donated some furniture.
But yeah, I'm interested to see what's under there, sure.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions?
Right.
Yes, Dan.
I propose we accept predicated on more pictures, predicated on salvaging what's worth salvaging. And predicated that if you rip the front of it off and there's a log cabin in there, you say, hey,
Oh.
come take another look.
So there's a basement in the middle, kind of.
Here.
And then they did an addition on the front, it was actually poured in a foundation style form. And then obviously in the back is the same, but you can't access it. I think there's a crawl space, but I haven't been in there at all, but the original house is kind
You
of.
may have to-
No, in the laundry room, there's.
Yeah.
Nothing, go down the stairs, but you're just in this little, maybe not even 10 by 10, I'm gonna say 10 by 10. But it's mostly dirt and the dirt's all caving in. There's a hot water heater down there. And a furnace.
Yeah, and there's no drain, the sewer's up here and everything's down there, so it's a mess, but. I mean, I could put a foundation under it, I always like a challenge, but I I think we'd rather just get rid of it if it,
I think we did have some of the commissioners who went down that evening, Rob and Mr. Scott both, right?
I have a. Can I say something?
Yes.
Yeah, that house has tons of character and I just hate the thought of tearing it down. The back part, the south part, I care less about that. I mean, it doesn't belong. And, but Steve disagrees a little bit, but that termite damage was just, it looked horrible to me. And down in that basement crawl space or whatever, it would cost as much as a small house just to fix that up.
It would.
And that would be a money pit. It would be a labor of love and someone like Steve could probably do it. But I don't know that I would want to tackle it. And I've done it in the past. So I would second what Dan said. And with those caveats, say that we move forward and approve the demolition, but it sounds like Steve's gonna object.
No, actually, I put a lot of thought into it, and like you say, the rear part of the house, that doubles two-story area, is much later, and there's really what remaining of the house is very little historical accuracy in it right now. If there is some way to find out what the original core of the house was above that basement we went down into, and somehow save that. If there's a log cabin in there somehow, to somehow save that. And
I think it was built. This house was built.
if we could do something like that, but it just, it's be fun to work with something on the house, but historically, I don't think it has at this point that much value. I think you see it from the outside, it's interesting, it's charming, but historically, I don't think it has importance, or it's that important. So, but I would like to see if you could somehow pare it back to what's in the middle. I know we've done another approval. Mr. Phelan bought some property on Pond Road and tore a house down around the original log cabin. He's restored the log cabin. And if it's a small log cabin and it's out of the way of the rest of your house, it would sure be nice to see an historic log cabin on your property that we would, I think, be very happy to accept a nomination to the Historical Register of Wildwood.
It's not in the footprint of the new build, so.
Right, if you built someplace else.
Kept in place, and I mean, I'm not a foundation guy, so I'm actually looking at it like, I was ready to start digging and put a new foundation under it, obviously, but
I would not object to a demolition request at this point,
we'll definitely
what's
do it step by step and take photographs and be in touch or whatever.
That's what I was saying. I realized I was speaking from back there and not being heard for minutes. But again, we will take photos throughout because we love the history too and finding what we're gonna find underneath as it goes. So we'll happily continue to take photos throughout the whole process and provide them to Robin. That way you guys can pick and choose to what is worth it. We do that in our own work as is, so we're definitely happy to do.
Oh, yeah, he saves everything. My dad was the same way. He remodeled all the courthouses down in Clayton. And when he had to build a 4 or 5 car shed just to put all the stuff in, my mom was having a kitchen fit. That's just how they are. They save, we don't like.
I like the old stuff.
Don't like to take it to the dump if it doesn't need to be there, so.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Despite like the termite damage and everything, I really like the character of the spiral staircase. So just a perspective idea for like if the new house prospectively has like a second story deck, then maybe I think it could make a great staircase, like in case there's no space to fit it in the house.
Yeah, I just don't know how to move it yet. It's cast iron, it's. I think they built that. Yeah, they must have got the staircase and then they're like, oh, we're gonna get this on C7. Had to have been stairs somewhere and.
They're both. in the footprint around.
Actually, we found the original staircase and it's in that closet at the top of, near the spiral stair. You
Oh,
open the closet up and there's 2 steps that go down, and I swear I was told by someone that that was the original stairway, and then they added on in that. Yeah, in that closet, that weird closet that's got a floor 3 feet below the. Yeah, that's probably what it was. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that spiral thing is not a historical part of that house.
It may not be a historical part of that house, but it is possibly a historic object from somewhere.
I don't know if we'll use it in the new house we build. I think it's something we want to use.
Yeah.
But it's definitely being kept. I was gonna, and you'll be able to speak a little more to the previous owners of that house that we bought it from. When they bought it, there was a different person that added on to the original house and then they added on. Right? So there was like, cause we've tried to ask for the original plans and different things throughout it when they purchased it to try to get down to the root of that. There's not a lot that we can been able to come across through the county's office, assessor's office, and anything else. So with those steps being that way, we'll probably get to bottom of that as we start to take it apart. I think we'll see what they covered up and whatnot. So.
Call the question.
All right, we have a call for the question. We have motion on the floor. The honorary vote will take first. If you're in favor of this, thank you very much. For the other commissioners, please raise your hand if you are in favor of the demolition. Thank you. Anyone against or abstaining? It will be demolished at some point. Thank you for your comments this evening.
Missions.
So, I do believe that was the end of the matters for us to consider this evening. So thank you again for all the work that you are doing and all the insights that you provide for the things that we are doing. It is all very exciting, and it's showing that we do have a passion for the historic preservation of our city, and your participation in it is very gratifying. And I'm very pleased to be working with a group like this. So if there are any other comments on anything this evening? Hearing none, by general consent, I declare the meeting closed.
You. Yeah, remember that.